You know the vibes. Welcome back to another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast brought to you by NBA 2K25. And the 2025 NBA Finals have delivered us yet another thrilling classic game that went right down to the wire. Joining me to break down the Oklahoma City's 111 to 104 win on the road to tie the series at 2-2 is Indiana resident, Mr. Christopher Thomas. CT.
And
Streets
yo,
quiet in Indiana tonight.
they might be loud. They might be in a little bit of uproar. But then
Man.
again, it's raining here, so the thunder came through.
Well, they did indeed. After what looked like a dreadful game for the OKC Thunder, they managed to pull this one out of the bag. Remember what I texted you in the game? I said to them, Indiana are about to get a taste of their own medicine from game one, where it's a game where you very clearly should win and you lose it at the last minute. Shai Alexander didn't have an MVP type game. Even though the
No,
stat sheet looks nice, it was a painful watch, but he had an MVP type final 5 minutes. He single-handedly outscored the entire Indiana Pacers team 14 points to 5 in clutch time. The OKC Thunder ended this game on a 12-1 run to close it out. Bennedict Mathurin, after being the hero of game three, came into the game late in the fourth quarter and made every possible mistake. He missed two free throws with 23 seconds to go. He had two away from the play fouls, which led to free throws for OKC and them getting the ball back.
goodness.
Then missed another free throw with 19 seconds left. It was horrible, but it was interesting. Let's break it down from the top, CT. What do
Yeah.
you make of Indiana's decision to go back to starting Isaiah Hartenstein and go to the double big lineup that they had throughout the entire playoffs up until games one, two, and three of the finals?
OKC's decision. I'm not mad at that. I, I think they need Hardenstein's presence on the boards at the bare minimum. Uh, and then Chet started off aggressive, and then
Yeah, the first play of the game, Chet brings
yeah,
the ball up and it's a 4-5 pick and roll
mm,
with Isaiah Hartenstein as the screener, and Chet lands up with a pull-up jumper, I think. Like they
yeah,
forced the issue early with the double bigs.
proving their point. So I'm not mad at that lineup. I just think Chet rolling his ankle, Chet taking a couple
Mm.
of hits during the game, like the physicality affects certain players certain ways. And tonight's game was fast and it was physical, and it got good. And it's hard for some players to keep up with that pace, keep up with that physicality. I think Chet's affected by that,
But credit to
in
him, he toughed
particular.
it out. He played. That
He
was a
did.
horrible ankle roll he
He
had. He
did.
played. He played the rest of the way. That first quarter though, Indiana started great. Huge defensive
Mm,
intensity, moving the ball on offense, doing what they do. The Indiana Pacers had a 1 point lead after the first. They were shooting 50% from the floor, from behind the
oh,
arc. And Pascal
oh,
Siakam had 4 steals in the first quarter. And I looked at that and I thought they have played as well as they possibly can. OKC have played absolutely terribly, and it's a 1 point game. I don't like this for Indiana.
mm,
Okay. Pascal Siakam, by the way, finished with 5 steals, 5 assists, 8 rebounds, and 20 points. Another great
mm,
game for him. However,
mm,
second quarter was once again the TJ McConnell show in the Halliburton-less minutes. And also, by the way, go back to that first quarter. It was nice for Shai to get a rest early on in the game. And I think that
oh,
you saw what he did in the fourth. That definitely helped them. But the second quarter, the TJ McConnell show, and Shai was looking real tired in that second quarter. He was getting
mm,
cooked on defense. He had other players bringing the ball up. There was a possession that Jalen Williams is about to pass the ball. He waves to Jalen Williams, says, "No, you just take it." And there was a
yeah,
lot of possessions where he just kind of stood around, let the other teams doing their thing. And Jalen Williams didn't have the greatest of games. He finished with 27 points, but it was an ugly 27 points. The
yeah,
stat sheet can be deceiving, right?
yeah.
And when he doesn't have it going, it's tough for anyone else on OKC to kind of make plays for their teammates, right? So it was tough. The Thunder did manage to stick in the game. The shooting variance kind of leveled out. The Pacers took some bad threes. They had a 3 point lead at
Mm,
halftime. But what was crazy to me is at halftime, the Thunder had 8 turnovers and 6 assists. We've talked about this differential throughout the series. The other thing that worried me, Shea had 12 points on 11 shots with 0 assists. And then the biggest worry was OKC shooting 1 of 10 from behind the arc. CC, how
mm.
hard is it for someone like Shea to get going when the defense can collapse because your teammates aren't hitting 3 point shots?
It's hard for him to get going because he's heavy on the minutes for the season, let alone the playoffs, let alone the series. They've been trying to duck and hide him, and he's got the worn out look, and
Hmm.
he's finding spurts of energy. Tonight, he was able to be another volume shooting night to be productive, but he was clutch,
Yep,
so it
he
worked
finished with
out for him.
35 on 24 shots, but interestingly, zero assists. When I was watching this game, the Pacers, when Shai has the ball at the top, the help defenders sag off the player they're guarding and go to the elbows to cut off those driving lanes for Shai to force him into picking up that dribble and shooting a shot. But
Yeah.
I'm looking at it like, why are you not just passing the ball to the open man? He finished with zero assists. I know they won the game and he was scoring down the stretch and he had a really clutch game, but maybe it wouldn't have been so nerve-wracking and such a close finish if he was making those plays throughout the course of the game.
I think he's trying to be there for his team. I think he's trying to be the man and not worried about the assist. I think he's in the mindset of when I'm out, that's when Jay will, that's when everybody else can kick in, get yours. But when I'm in and I got a ball in hand and you see how they're playing this, I'm gonna get mine. So I don't know if it's gonna make sense for this next game coming. He seems to be struggling, and I just think he's tired. I think the Pacers are doing exactly what OKC has done during the season: is throw a bunch of bodies at a bunch of key players, uh, and he's been beat up. Like physical play, and the Pacers are kind of gotten real good at beating him up off the ball, on the ball, in between plays. Like he's feeling it.
And Andrew Nembhard is a player who tends to get better the longer a series goes on because we often see when he's in a playoff series, the first two games aren't, I'm talking about defense here. The first
Mm-hmm.
two games usually aren't his best defensive games, but once he figures out the rhythm and the timing and the movement patterns of the guys that he's guarding, you saw there were a lot of plays tonight where it looked like Shai's not being aggressive and getting the ball, but really Andrew Nembhard is just hounding that man.
Hounding, hounding him, and that's tough on anybody, let alone the MVP. He's having to work, and he's about it. But I'll keep saying it. He looked tired last game. He looked tired throughout this game, and it's just the Pacers have the best case scenario. They're just going to wear you down. Um,
But
platoon system.
lucky for OKC, he found a way in the final 3, 4 minutes of the game to find that extra gear that only the truly great players can go to, and he won them the game. But after the halftime, that third quarter, the OKC Thunder are usually the best third quarter team in the NBA, but it was actually the Indiana Pacers who had an amazing third quarter. The stat came up on the screen that Indy had, the biggest lead of the series.
Mm,
And it's like a 10-point lead is their biggest lead of the series, and they're up 2-1 and potentially up 3-1 after if they had carried out. But their third quarter hustle and effort, they forced two 24-second violations and
yes.
an 8-second violation. And for a minute there, the way they were hustling, they were playing hungry basketball. Obi Toppin was huge. Obi
Mm,
Toppin, what did he finish with tonight off the bench? 17 points again on an efficient night. Offensive rebounding as well for the Pacers was huge. We'll talk about that in a sec. But that third quarter looks real scary for OKC. What do you think was the biggest change they made going into the fourth? Because at the end of the third, it was what, Pacers up 7.
I just feel Obi Toppin, they didn't capitalize on what was at stake. 10-point lead, had all the momentum, still playing at home, all that energy in the arena, and uh, they just failed to, put the foot on the neck and all gas, no break going into and through the fourth quarter. And then they just had a bad fourth quarter. Bennedict Mathurin in particular killed them, absolutely
Man,
killed them.
the fourth quarter didn't get off to the best of starts. OKC took that 7-point lead and really quickly turned it into a single possession game with Halliburton on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Caruso coming into the game in the fourth. he was forcing the issue not only on offense for once, because he's got that championship experience. They were in a scoring rut. He went there and he took a few shots he wouldn't usually take, but just to try and force the issue. But the defense of OKC is the difference maker in this one. What changes did you see defensively they made going into that fourth quarter?
I think they just got back to live ball turnovers and scores, or at least free throws out of that situation. And I think they got back to concentrating on blowing up handoff, blowing up pickup dribbles or catches, guarding first dribble, extra tough. And then it just worked out for them. I think the Pacers just had too many crucial turnovers. Like Halliburton had a couple. He likes to jump pass, and it bit him a couple times
Yep.
in tonight's game.
Him and Nembhard combined for 9 turnovers together.
Yeah, Nembhard had a couple in the first half, second half especially, that I was like, come on, guy. Those are tough turnovers right there.
That fourth quarter was thrilling. It was tied game, 8 minutes to go. Indiana got into the bonus quite early on in the fourth. The thing that OKC do that drives me insane, and they did it a ton in game 4 against Pacers, they foul guys who are going for offensive rebounds.
Yes.
And that's what got Indiana in the bonus so early. And OKC are very lucky that they managed to hold on, win this game eventually. But those unnecessary fouls, I think it happened like 5 times in the fourth quarter. There's 3 OKC players there, 1 Pacers player trying to get an offensive rebound, and yet the result is a foul against the Indiana player. Like, you got to have more discipline than that. Like, for OKC, going into the next game, there's a lot of things that they can look at to improve their performance that they did wrong in this game. It's kind of similar to what we said about Indiana after game 1. Right, the whole narrative of the game was OKC was going to win. Indiana pulled out in the last few minutes. Same with tonight. The whole flow of this game pointed in the direction of the Indiana Pacers taking a 3-1 lead, and yet OKC pulled out. And OKC, they finished with 13 turnovers, but only 11 assists. That does continue to worry me as this series goes on.
Now, both teams are turning the ball over. Just silly turnovers, basically. I mean, but the first game you could say it was nerves, but now we're deep in the series where you know who you are, you know what you're trying to get accomplished, you know what's at stake, and the turnovers on both sides are concerning. It's just who can capitalize, and then the bench play for OKC tonight was
20 for Caruso off the bench.
Yeah, significantly. I think they had 18 last game in total.
20 points and 5 steals, first player off the bench in NBA history in an NBA Finals game to do that for Alex Caruso. Should I tell you what I think the difference is in the fourth quarter of this game? The Indiana Pacers went away from their identity of moving the basketball as they had been doing so well throughout the game, largely in part to the OKC defense turning up about 10 gears when it came to the fourth quarter.
Right.
But for the OKC Thunder, they have the MVP on their roster. The MVP does MVP things. I saw a stretch where Shai got to the free throw line. All right, cool. You see the ball go through the hoop, get your rhythm, get your confidence. Then next play, he comes up, shoots a 3-pointer, drains that. Next play, maybe a little push off, but he gets the little step back midi to go. And you just saw the difference in having that guy that can go get you a bucket when you need it most.
And I think that was his plan. Definitely first game, he came out extra aggressive. And then, so I think that's his mentality is like, I'm going to get it done for y'all. Just when I'm out, keep it going. But when I'm in, not, kind of get out the way, but, let me cook.
But it's interesting because there are a lot of times where he's deferring to Jalen Williams, even when he's in the game. And is that fatigue or is that let my boy get his rhythm?
Yeah, but that's why I think it's fatigue.
40 minutes again
wearing
tonight
him down. They're wearing him down where, they picking him up is one thing, but the physical contact that he's going through to get to his mid-range pulleys, it's tough. And it's, him deferring, like actually waving Jay Will off to keep the ball, don't pass it to me. Into the first half, the notable play where I forget who raced it up the floor, Shai took the side route
Mm.
and was jogging. I mean, jogged past half court, and the ball flew past him. They end up scoring. Went down by 3, but noticeably, he was not trying to take that last shot, be part of that last play to end the half, and that's just emblematic of how he's looked this series. He's tired,
Yeah.
but he's a gamer, so he's going to get it done. And the Pacers now have a problem because they got to go to OKC. They have a problem because they've proven that they can't keep a lead that's safe
They've got a
against
problem
OKC.
because they just had a team shoot 3 of 16 from 3 in the NBA Finals and yet somehow still win. They have a problem where the team had more turnovers than assists and still somehow found a way to win the game. These are major, major problems. And it's the same as,
Oh,
OKC after game 1. Do everything right on paper, it just falls apart at the end. Maybe a little bit of
mhm.
that is the Indiana Pacers feeling a bit of that fatigue. They're full court pressing damn near the whole game. Do you think that's setting in for the Pacers, even if it's less kind of visible?
That's the way the Pacers play. The pace of tonight's game was extremely fast
Yeah, and you can
on
see
both
they were
sides.
forcing
Like,
the issue. Halliburton in
yeah,
particular, getting that offense going.
guaranteed, guaranteed. So that's going to be a factor on both ends. But the Pacers are that's what their style is. So they're not going to show that fatigue, even though I'm guaranteeing Obi Toppin's dog tired tonight. and his third quarter was Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, use the Force, Obi. Like, goodness gracious.
Mm,
Um, can he could be consistent, reliable next game, or for the rest of the series, basically.
yep. Yep.
Uh, can Mathurin come back to the positive side of the equation? Can Turner give something?
That was a tough watch from 0 of 6 from behind the arc for Turner. And more importantly than that, only 2 rebounds in the game for Miles Turner.
Got to
I
get
got to give
more.
credit to Chet. He got 15 boards. And, the Thunder crushed them on second chance points. It was 23-11 on second chance points. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the offensive rebounds, like I said earlier, they got fouled on the Indiana Pacers. But still, Miles Turner, you can't have another bad rebounding game like you did in game 3. You got away with that one because your team won. Now, tonight, the rebound, 2 boards
Not
for a
good.
7-foot center.
Not good. Not good. Neesmith fouling out. Not
Yep.
good.
And he was in
It
foul trouble
just
from early.
yeah. It's part of the problem with the Pacers. They're trying to play D. They're trying to put up a fight on the defensive side, and it's tough. And it's not like Shai's getting the calls he's used to getting.
He's
He had
getting
a
a few of
couple.
them, though. He's getting a
He
few.
got more. He got more this game to where they're in trouble because he gets comfy like that again. It's over. Like,
Hmm.
the whole team gets the confidence when Shai,
10 of 10 from the line.
yeah, gets to that line. That's the whole key. Get to that free throw line and get busy.
I do
Double
find it
digit.
interesting that they never ever call an offensive foul on Shea. When Tatum does it, they call it on him, but on Shea, he don't get those same calls. The push off with the arm
That's
going
that
into the
light
step back.
skin, dark skin. Yeah, I don't know. It's just
I don't know.
MVP. Good to
Yeah,
be
he's an
MVP,
MVP.
ain't it?
You get away with more if you're the MVP of the league, I guess. But Bennedict Mathurin, the
Mm,
hero of game 3,
mm.
the villain of game 4, checks in for literally a minute, misses 2 free throws with 23 seconds, misses another free throw with 19 seconds, 2
Oh,
away from the
but the
play
foul,
fouls,
the fouls
2
was
away from the play fouls, which gave OKC a free throw and the ball back.
tough.
If I was Rick Carlisle, I'd be ripping out my hair, but he's got no hair left. So
Yeah, he went from hero to the wrong type of goat uh, in a matter of 2 games. But that's just kind of what you get with him. Is he's good when he's good, and he's bad when he's bad. So you hope for the best. And besides him, I just think it's a culmination of him and the succession of bad plays with
yeah, in
the
such a
death toll.
short space of time.
It was just the death toll tonight. And then, the overall play of a Turner who, when he's not hitting shots, not rebounding defensively, he doesn't block a lot of shots, but when he's not on the court presence, that hurts the Pacers, especially if OKC is going to go double B.
Yeah, and
Um,
OKC had a terrible shooting night. The Pacers didn't have a great shooting game either. They shot 50% from downtown in that first quarter, but it averaged out. They finished 30% from behind the arc, 11 of 36. But like I said, Miles Turner 0 of 6, and Tyrese Halliburton 1 of 7, Aaron Nesmith 2 of 5, Pascal Siakam 2 of 6, Obi Toppin 2 of 5. Like the Indiana Pacers, as we've seen all playoffs long, when they shoot 33, 35%, they're usually all right. Anything around that
mhm.
30% mark, you may as well chalk up the loss. There it is.
And I just feel, again, you've had it was a good game, but neither team played their best basketball. So we're still waiting on that game. And hopefully it's this next game where, it's good basketball. It's so exciting. You can't sit down and
Well, it was exciting because it was close, but it looked like a
guarantee,
pickup game at times. I was
guarantee,
like, what
but
are we watching here?
was not good basketball. Like the the Mathurin fouls. It was just like, what are we doing? Like, come on. Like, some of the physical play, the flagrant foul calls, could be
Those
flagrant,
flagrant
could
foul
be
calls
not.
weren't flagrant fouls. Come on.
It's playoff basketball, right? And then, some of the block charge fouls, calls or non calls. Mm. So it just wasn't aesthetically pretty game, but got competitive, got exciting, built the ground for the next game for sure. The series is it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's building interest. You think two small markets couldn't hold attention at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, but they're holding attention.
What was interesting for me is when Mark Dagnall called that timeout with 4 minutes to go, around 4 minutes to go. After that, the OKC Thunder went to the same action, I think like 3 times in a row. They
Mm-hmm.
told 3 of their players, you guys just go down to the baseline, get out of the way. We got Shai at the top, and we got Jalen Williams right next to him, right? Neesmith has been doing an amazing job of guarding Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Sorry, Nembhard has been doing an amazing job
Never mind.
guarding Shai
Yep.
Gilgeous-Alexander. Neesmith is guarding Jalen Williams. They went and forced that switch, and I think Shai got like 3 straight buckets just off that alone. Just those two playing a two-man game at the top, the guard-to-guard screening action with the other 3 players spacing the floor just out of the way. And that
Mm-hmm.
was really the difference, which is also surprising because Neesmith's a great defender, but it just goes to show how great Nembhard has been against, one of his
Yes.
best friends who plays with him on the Canada team
Yes.
and has really studied his tendencies.
Yeah. All the difference was those three possessions and getting the switch and the biggest thing is getting Nembhard off of Shai. So Shai could get a little groove going. And he saw what happened. He just does what he does.
Absolutely. The MVP doing MVP things down the stretch because otherwise it was going to be a real uncomfortable conversation if they had gone down 3-1 with that performance and, a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
But that was a fun game. Shai, by the way, his 14th 30-point game of these playoffs, the most of any player since Kawhi Leonard in 2019.
Nah, you pencil him in lead number 3 every pregame, 30 plus, and you just wait for it. He's that good.
Except for the last game.
Yeah, well,
He's
I mean, out of 80, well, we've played what,
played like 100
100
games at this
games
point.
at this point,
Yeah.
and he's 30, less than 30 for less than 10 of them.
Yeah.
I mean,
Pretty
he's
good
tough.
going.
He's tough, and I just want to see the game within this series that he does what he does. Jay Will shows that he's a good Robin. Chet shows up and does what he needs to do. OKC's bench comes through. I need the Pacers to get consistently do what they do for 4 quarters and not fall off. And so I cherish the good basketball and the legendary can't instant classic is one thing, but just the legendary finals, NBA finals championship game of note that you typically always get. I'm still waiting on it. Even though the series has been
It's
good.
been memorable. It's
Hmm.
been memorable, but teams have been letting leads slide in this finals.
Oh,
No lead is
oh,
safe now. No lead is
no.
safe now in the NBA. Did you want to see more out of Tyrese Halliburton down the stretch in the final few minutes? I think in that like final 3 minutes, it was like a 12-1 OKC run to close out the
Mhm.
game.
Yeah, and that's where if there's any flaw in Halliburton's game, it's meeting the moment before the must-have moment. And tonight's game, it was blatant. Someone needed to take over, but they're going to depend on Obi Toppin. Good for them when he's hitting and making plays and doing what he does, but Halliburton does need to match the energy of a SGA in that fourth quarter, especially.
Exactly. Tyrese finished with 18 points on 15 shots, which is not ideal, but I love the way he was forcing the issue early on and even in that fourth quarter earlier on. But I need to see that maintained throughout the whole thing. Let's talk about game five then. It's now a best of three series. Oklahoma City has two of
Mm,
those games at home.
mm.
I'm thinking it goes seven and OKC in seven. That's the obvious thought, but do you see it going any other ways?
I wouldn't be mad if the Pacers went into the next game and stole that one. Just just outright. I think it goes either way. Like again, the turnovers, the amount of turnovers, the type of turnovers that each team presents, you're never you're never out of the game.
Mm,
You can depend on that. Shot making is going to be huge for these last, you know, 2 games, but 3 games for sure. Um, it, it, it just depends. I wouldn't be mad if the Pacers, brought this thing to a game 7. I wouldn't be surprised if OKC took care of business next game at home and came back here, next Thursday and finished it off uh, in true fashion. So
mm.
we'll see how this plays out. I want 7 games, though. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I think looking at the next game, right? Because you can only focus on the next game at hand. So game five,
Mm.
I think the Thunder have a lot of things that they can improve on, even though they won this game. They
Again.
clean up some of those sloppy fouls on the offensive rebounds.
Mm-hmm.
Shai starts moving the ball when the defense is, kind of scheming against him. Get a little bit more ball movement. That's been the biggest disappointment for me from Oklahoma in this finals. They've not moved the ball as well as they have previously in the playoffs or even in the regular season. It's been a lot of isolation stuff. For Indiana, they played a great game today. Shots started not falling like they did early on. Maybe they got a little false confidence after such a hot start. And in this league, when you are playing well and your opponent's playing badly, it is imperative that you build up at least a 10-point lead, so on and so forth. When
Guaranteed.
it was Indiana up by one after the first, up by three after the second, up by seven after, that's not enough. That's not enough anymore. These
Now,
leads can change so quickly, especially against a defense like Oklahoma City. I think it's going to be real interesting. I'm fully expecting Oklahoma to take care of business at home, though, in game five.
yeah, and I think it's depending on Shea. You got to share that sugar a little
Mm.
bit, but a
You
little
can't
bit
have another
more.
zero assist game. I think it's his first zero assist game since the bubble.
Yeah, and that it's not a winning science, and that's not usually how he plays, which is the other thing.
Hmm.
So he's out of sorts a little bit. I think it's a fatigue force the issue type of scenario. But I think they get back to OKC and he gets comfy. His teammates help him in making plays, for him, with him, around him, especially when he's off the court, out of the game, to make him feel that he can share the sugar while he's in
And
the game and still get his 30.
and they
He's
need
going to
to
do it.
because their offense is so reliant on Shea or Jalen Williams making plays.
Guaranteed.
They had
Guaranteed.
11 assists as a team tonight.
Yeah.
Like they had 11 assists as a team. So when Shea's out of the game, you've got to be moving that ball more. You have to be. It's the only way.
Yeah, but that's not typically how they played. If you watched OKC all season, they did share the ball.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
did, have you know bench players come in and play well, play confidently well to where they were given enough minutes to affect the game
Yeah, well,
on either side of the ball.
the bench players will get a boost at home in game five. I'm fully
Guaranteed.
expecting Aaron Wiggins or a Casey Wallace or an Isaiah Joe to hit a lot of shots from behind the arc. You know, Ludo only had one attempt tonight, which was kind of uncharacteristic given what's happened in the finals. So you could pencil him in for like 4 or 5 of them, but tonight it was quiet. But I'm expecting OKC to be able to shoot the lights out now, but going back home to their arena. And I think that they could win the next game quite easily. And it's all on Indy if they can stay alive in game 6.
Time will tell, right? Time will tell.
This is what I
We got
said
a
to the
series
Indiana
though.
fans. You can't get happy when your team is only up 2-1 in the finals, man. I've made that mistake before.
Well, they made a mistake tonight of not knocking OKC out.
When you got them on
Like
the ropes, you got to throw the
just knock
haymaker.
forget haymaker. Just keep punching. Just
Mhm.
keep punching, keep punching, keep punching. Kick, spit. I don't care what you do, but you gotta finish this
Kick.
thing
What is
off tonight.
Draymond playing for them?
By any means necessary, baby. Got to get that
Absolutely.
3-1. You had to get that 3-1 coming out of tonight. And
Absolutely. And the way they started playing the first 3 quarters of this game with the level of intensity they did, like, man, they knew what was at stake. They just couldn't get it done. They just couldn't get it done down the stretch. And
they've done that all season. They play with the food a little bit. They took the foot off the pedal a lot of it. And then, under 3 minutes when it's okay, necessary time. I mean, the one play of note is, when it's Halliburton not being aggressive, when he's the one that you need to make a play in this moment at this time, and he just, for whatever reason, doesn't choose to, meet that moment that they needed. The one stem that run OKC went on, but then it's like, okay, don't let all the air get sucked out the arena.
hmm hmm
Jeez.
Man, this has been a crazy series. I've really enjoyed these finals. Like, think about it. The Pacers won game 1 where they led for 0.3 seconds.
Yeah.
Tonight, the Thunder win the game despite being 3 of 17 from three and having 11 assists, or 3 of
Mm.
16 from three, 11 assists and 13 turnovers. Who knows? Maybe whoever wins game 5 goes on to lose this series. That's how crazy it's been. That's how crazy it's been. The
Hey,
only thing that I do know about this is that we'll be back after game 5, breaking it all down for you guys. So make sure you subscribe to the show, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast from. CT, appreciate you as always, my brother. Any of our listeners out there in Paris or in Istanbul, or even if you're anywhere else in Europe and you can fly there this summer, make
oh,
sure you
I'm
get some
coming.
work in with CT.
I'm
It's
coming. I'm
essential
coming. I release
because when you
dates.
train with CT, you learn how to play the whole 48 minutes instead of fumbling your lead with
Well,
with
I'll tell
with
you this.
45 minutes.
I'll tell you this. When you train with me, that's the one thing, that mentality and that conditioning factor is going to be where you can maintain and make it through regulation game and a high note. So
And overtime.
if it comes to that, but the mentality is don't let it go to overtime. The
I hear that,
mentality is
brother. I hear
knock
that.
them out.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you as
Got you,
always,
bro.
CT. Appreciate you guys
Yes,
for
sir.
listening. The NBA Finals roll on 2-2. It's all tied up. It's now a best of
Mm.
3. Stay with the Hoop Genius podcast. And until next time, get buckets.